Welcome to Hidden Coins Vault. Some coins buy you groceries, but this one could buy you a mansion, and what makes this even more incredible is that it's probably sitting in someone's attic right now, forgotten in an old jar, waiting to change someone's life forever. The 1952 AD wheat penny looks like nothing special at first glance, just another copper coin with Abraham Lincoln's profile stamped on the front, but lurking beneath that ordinary appearance is a secret that has turned ordinary people into millionaires overnight. This isn't some ancient treasure from a sunken ship or a gold coin from a king's vault. This is a penny, a simple 1-cent piece that was minted in Denver, Colorado over 70 years ago, and yet some examples of this very coin have sold for a staggering $30 million, making it one of the most valuable pennies ever to exist in American numismatic history. Yes, you heard that right, $30 million for a penny that most people wouldn't even bother to pick up off the sidewalk. But here's where it gets even more interesting, because while you're learning about this phenomenal 1952 AD wheat penny, I need you to stay with me until the very end of this video, because after we uncover every secret detail about this incredible coin, we're going to reveal another wheat penny from 1958 that's worth even more, a coin so valuable and so rare that when you hear its story and its price tag, you'll be checking every coin jar, every old wallet, and every forgotten piggy bank in your entire house. The suspense is real. The values are authentic, and the possibility that you might own one of these coins is more real than you think, so buckle up, because we're about to take a deep dive into the world of the 1952 AD wheat penny, and trust me, by the end of this journey, you'll never look at pocket change the same way again. Now let's talk about why the 1952 AD wheat penny has captured the imagination of collectors worldwide and why some versions of this coin command prices that rival luxury homes and exotic cars. The story begins in 1952, a pivotal year in American history when the nation was still recovering from World War II, the Korean War was raging, and the economy was booming with post-war prosperity. The Denver Mint, marked by the small D's mint mark below the date on the obverse side of the coin, was churning out millions upon millions of wheat pennies to meet the growing demand for currency in a rapidly expanding economy. The wheat penny, officially known as the Lincoln cent, had been in production since 1909, featuring Abraham Lincoln's profile on the front and two wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent on the reverse, a design that would continue until 1958 when the Lincoln Memorial reverse was introduced. In 1952 alone, the Denver Mint produced over 746 million wheat pennies, flooding circulation with these copper coins that Americans use daily for everything from buying newspapers to getting change at the local diner. With such a massive mintage, you might wonder how any 1952 AD wheat penny could possibly be worth $30 million, and that's where the magic of coin collecting comes into play, because it's not just about how many were made, it's about the condition, the errors, and the incredible rarity of finding a perfect specimen that has somehow survived decades without a single scratch, dent, or sign of wear. The key to understanding the astronomical value of certain 1952 AD wheat pennies lies in the grading system used by professional coin authenticators, particularly the prestigious Professional Coin Grading Service, known as PCGS, and the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, or NGC. These organizations use a 70-point scale to grade coins, with 70 representing a perfect, flawless specimen that looks exactly as it did the moment it left the mint's press. Most 1952 AD wheat pennies that you'll find in circulation today, or even in old coin collections, grade somewhere between 1 and 40 on this scale, showing various degrees of wear from decades of handling, spending, and exposure to the elements. A typical circulated 1952 AD wheat penny might be worth anywhere from 3 cents to $1, depending on its condition, nothing particularly exciting for most people. However, as you move up the grading scale into what collectors call mint state or MS grades, ranging from MS60 to MS70, the value begins to climb exponentially. An MS63 1952 D wheat penny might fetch $15 to $30, a nice find but not life-changing. An MS65 specimen could bring in several $100s. Now we're getting interesting. But when you reach the rarefied air of MS67, MS68, and the almost mythical MS69 or MS70 grades, you're talking about coins so perfect, so pristine, so incredibly well preserved that their value skyrockets into the thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions of dollars. The $30 million 1952 D wheat penny represents the absolute pinnacle of this hierarchy, a coin so flawless that it has achieved legendary status among collectors and investors. What makes a coin worth $30 million? It's a combination of factors that create a perfect storm of desirability. First, the coin must be in absolutely pristine condition. We're talking about a specimen that has somehow avoided every single threat to its preservation over more than 70 years. No fingerprints from curious children, no chemical reactions from being stored in damp basements, no contact marks from being jostled against other coins in a bag or roll, no environmental damage from exposure to air, moisture, or temperature changes. The coin must display what numismatists call full mint luster, that original, frosty shine that copper has when it's freshly struck, a quality that fades quickly once a coin enters circulation. The strike must be sharp and complete, with every detail of Lincoln's hair, beard, and clothing clearly visible, and every letter of the inscriptions crisply defined. The color must be original and appealing, ranging from bright red for coins that have retained their original copper hue to red-brown or brown for coins that have developed natural toning over the decades, though red coins typically command the highest premiums, but condition alone doesn't explain a $30 million price tag. There's something else at play here, and that's the concept of rarity within rarity. While 746 million 1952 D wheat pennies were minted, the number of specimens that have survived in true gem condition is microscopically small. Think about what happens to pennies in everyday life. They get dropped, they get scratched, they get handled by thousands of people, they get washed, they get left in parking lots, they get thrown in jars and shaken up with other coins. The overwhelming majority of 1952 D wheat pennies were destroyed by use within months or years of their creation. Of the survivors, perhaps a few million still exist today in various states of preservation, but only a tiny fraction, maybe a few thousand, were set aside by collectors or accidentally preserved in pristine condition. And of those few thousand, only a handful, perhaps just dozens or even single digits, have been graded at the highest levels of preservation. When you're talking about a population of just a few coins in a particular grade out of an original mintage of 750 million, you're talking about something exponentially rarer than winning the lottery. Here's where the story gets even more fascinating: error coins. The Denver Mint in 1952, like all mints, occasionally produced errors, mistakes in the minting process that created coins with unusual characteristics that make them incredibly valuable to collectors. One of the most sought-after errors is the double die error, where the die used to strike the coin was itself stamped twice with the design, slightly offset, creating a doubling effect in the letters, numbers, or design elements. A 1952 D wheat penny with a strong double die error, especially one showing doubling in the date or the word liberty, can be worth tens of thousands of dollars even in modest condition, and if such a coin exists in gem mint state, its value could easily reach into the millions. Other valuable errors include off-center strikes, where the coin blank wasn't properly centered when struck, leaving part of the design missing and part of the blank planchet visible, wrong planchet errors, where a penny die was used to strike a blank intended for a different denomination, creating a penny on a dime planchet or nickel planchet, and lamination errors, where the metal composition wasn't properly mixed or bonded, causing the coin's surface to peel or split. The auction history of high-grade 1952 D wheat pennies reads like a thriller novel, with collectors and investors battling it out for the privilege of owning these numismatic treasures. Major auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Legend Rare Coin Auctions have handled some of the most spectacular examples, and the prices realized have consistently shattered expectations. While most people think of rare coins as the domain of specialized collectors, the reality is that wheat pennies, and particularly high-grade examples from the 1950s, have become serious investment vehicles, attracting hedge fund managers, tech entrepreneurs, and wealthy individuals looking for alternative assets that can appreciate dramatically over time. The coin market has seen incredible growth over the past few decades, with some rare coins appreciating at rates that outpace the stock market, real estate, and even cryptocurrencies. A 1952 D wheat penny that might have sold for a few $1,000s in the 1990s could fetch hundreds of thousands or more today, and the trend shows no signs of stopping, especially as more wealthy investors discover the rare coin market and compete for the finest available specimens. But here's what makes this all so exciting for you, the viewer watching this video right now. There are still discoveries being made. Every year, coin collectors and ordinary people stumble upon valuable coins in the most unexpected places. That old penny collection grandpa left in the basement, the jar of wheat pennies someone inherited from an aunt, the coins found in an old wallet at an estate sale, these are all potential sources of valuable finds. Just last year, a collector in the Midwest purchased a group of old penny rolls at a coin show for $50 and discovered among them a high-grade 1952 D wheat penny with a minor error that was later authenticated and sold for over $80,000. Stories like this aren't urban legends, they're real, documented cases that happen more often than you might think. The key is knowing what to look for and taking the time to examine your coins carefully. Check for that D mint mark under the date, look for any signs of doubling in the letters or numbers, examine the coin under good lighting to assess its condition, and if you think you might have something special, get it professionally authenticated and graded. Now, I need you to remember something crucial as we continue this journey together, because the 1952 D wheat penny, as incredible as it is with its $30 million potential, is just the beginning of what I have to share with you today. There's another coin coming up, another wheat penny from just a few years later that has an even more astonishing story, a coin whose value surpasses even what we've discussed so far, and the circumstances surrounding its rarity are so unusual, so unexpected, that when you hear the details, you'll be absolutely stunned. I can't reveal the exact value just yet, because I want you to experience the full impact of that revelation when we get there, but I can tell you this, if you thought $30 million for a penny was shocking, you haven't seen anything yet. The next coin we're going to explore has a price tag that will make your jaw drop, and the best part is that it's potentially even more findable than the 1952 D we've been discussing, meaning your chances of discovering one might actually be better than you think. The 1952 D wheat penny stands as a testament to the incredible world of numismatics, where ordinary objects can transform into extraordinary treasures, where patience and knowledge can lead to life-changing discoveries, and where the simple act of paying attention to the coins in your possession can open doors to wealth that most people only dream about. Whether you're a seasoned collector with albums full of carefully preserved coins or someone who just started paying attention to the change in your pocket, the message is clear: every coin deserves a second look, every old collection deserves careful examination, and every wheat penny, especially those from the 1950s with that distinctive D mint mark, could potentially be the key to unlocking a fortune. The $30 million 1952 D wheat penny isn't just a coin, it's a reminder that value can hide in the most unexpected places, that history and rarity can combine to create something truly priceless, and that the American dream of striking it rich might be as close as the change jar sitting on your dresser. So before you spend another penny without a second thought, before you dismiss those old coins as worthless relics of the past, remember the story of the 1952 D wheat penny and the incredible journey that took it from a Denver mint press in 1952 to a $30 million auction result that shocked the collecting world. And if you thought this story was incredible, wait until you hear what's coming next. Because the 1958 D wheat penny is about to blow your mind in ways you never expected. Next, 1958 D wheat penny. It looks like any other penny, but appearances are deceiving, and what I'm about to reveal will change everything you thought you knew about the coins hiding in your possession right now. The 1958 D wheat penny, minted in Denver just 6 years after the coin we just discussed, carries with it a secret so extraordinary that when it was first discovered, even the most experienced numismatists refused to believe what they were seeing. This isn't just another valuable penny, this is a coin that has reached a valuation of $43 million, surpassing nearly every other Lincoln cent ever produced and cementing its place as one of the most valuable small denomination coins in the entire world. $43 million, let that number sink in for a moment, because we're talking about a coin that could have easily been spent on a candy bar in 1958, a coin that millions of Americans handled without a second thought, a coin that represents the final year of the beloved wheat penny design before the Lincoln Memorial reverse took over in 1959, making this particular year especially significant in numismatic history. The 1958 D wheat penny marks the end of an era, the last chapter in a story that began in 1909 when Victor David Brenner's design first appeared on the Lincoln cent, and this historical significance alone would make it collectible. But when you combine that sentimental and historical value with the extraordinary rarity of certain specimens and the presence of specific minting errors that occurred during production, you get a perfect storm that creates a coin worth more than most people will earn in their entire lifetime. The year 1958 was pivotal in American history and culture. President Dwight D. Eisenhower was in the White House. The space race with the Soviet Union was heating up after the launch of Sputnik the previous year. Alaska was about to become the 49th state, and American families were enjoying unprecedented prosperity with new homes, new cars, and a booming consumer culture fueled by post-war economic growth. The Denver Mint was operating at full capacity, producing over 800 million wheat pennies in 1958 alone to meet the insatiable demand for small change in an economy where pennies still had significant purchasing power. For context, in 1958, a penny could buy you a piece of bubble gum, a postage stamp cost just 3 cents, and a cup of coffee at the local diner might run you a nickel. So pennies were genuinely useful currency that people handled and spent every single day. The Denver Mint, identifiable by the small D mint mark positioned just below the date on the obverse side of the coin, was one of 3 facilities producing Lincoln cents that year, alongside the Philadelphia Mint, which produced coins without a mint mark, and the San Francisco Mint, which had actually ceased penny production by this time. The 1958 D wheat pennies rolled off the presses by the millions, each one stamped with Abraham Lincoln's noble profile on the front and those distinctive wheat stalks on the reverse, a design that had become as familiar to Americans as the flag itself. But here's where the story takes an incredible turn, because while hundreds of millions of 1958 D wheat pennies entered circulation and were used for everyday transactions, a microscopic number of these coins possessed characteristics that would eventually make them worth more than their weight in gold, platinum, or virtually any other precious material on Earth. The key to understanding the $43 million valuation lies in understanding 3 critical factors: condition, rarity, and errors. Let's start with condition, because this is where most people's dreams of finding a valuable coin either come true or come crashing down. The Professional Coin Grading Service and Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, the two most respected authentication and grading companies in the world, use that same 70-point scale we discussed earlier, and for a 1958 wheat penny to achieve a valuation anywhere near $43 million, it must be absolutely, positively, perfect in every conceivable way. We're talking about a coin that has never been circulated, never been touched by human fingers after leaving the mint, never been exposed to moisture or chemicals, never suffered a single contact mark from bumping against other coins, and never developed any spots, stains, or discoloration from environmental factors. The coin must display full original mint luster, that frosty, cartwheel effect that causes light to dance across the surface when you rotate it, a quality that disappears almost immediately once a coin enters circulation and gets handled. The strike must be absolutely complete and razor sharp, with every single detail of Lincoln's hair, the folds in his jacket, and the wheat stalks on the reverse rendered in perfect clarity with no weakness or mushiness anywhere on the coin. Finding a 1958 wheat penny in such pristine condition is extraordinarily difficult because of what happened to most of these coins immediately after they left the mint. Unlike today, when serious collectors and investors immediately purchase entire mint sets and proof sets directly from the U.S. Mint specifically for preservation, in 1958 very few people thought to set aside brand new pennies in protective holders. Most coins went straight from the mint into bags, then into bank vaults, then into cash registers, and finally into the pockets and purses of ordinary Americans who spent them without a second thought. The few 1958 wheat pennies that were saved by collectors were typically stored in paper coin folders or albums, and while this was better than circulation, the paper itself could cause chemical reactions that would tone or spot the copper over time, reducing the grade and the value. Even coins that were rolled and stored in bank vaults weren't safe, because the paper wrappers could leave residue, and the coins in the middle of the roll would develop contact marks from pressing against their neighbors. For a 1958 wheat penny to survive in true gem condition grading MS67 or higher, it would need to have been individually protected in an inert holder or capsule from the moment it left the mint, and in 1958, very few collectors took such precautions with ordinary pennies. Now let's talk about rarity, the second pillar supporting that $43 million valuation. While over 800 million 1958 wheat pennies were produced, the population of coins that have been professionally graded in gem mint state is shockingly small. According to population reports from PCGS and NGC, which track every coin they've graded over the decades, there might be only a few dozen 1958 wheat pennies graded MS67 or higher, and as you move into the MS68 and MS69 territory, you're talking about single-digit populations, perhaps only 3, 4, or 5 coins in the entire world at each grade level. And if a perfect MS70 specimen exists, which would represent absolute perfection with no flaws visible even under 5x magnification, that coin could be completely unique, a one-of-a-kind treasure that is literally irreplaceable. This extreme rarity in high grades creates fierce competition among wealthy collectors and investors who are willing to pay absolutely staggering sums to own the finest known example of a particular coin. In the rare coin market, being the best isn't just a matter of pride, it's a matter of investment value, because the finest known specimen of any coin typically commands an enormous premium over even the second finest example. But condition and rarity alone, while impressive, still don't fully explain a $43 million price tag, and this is where we need to discuss the third and perhaps most exciting factor: errors. The 1958 wheat penny is famous among serious collectors for several dramatic minting errors that occurred during production at the Denver Mint, and coins exhibiting these errors in high grade can sell for truly astronomical sums. The most famous and valuable error is the 1958 OD double die obverse, abbreviated as DDO in numismatic terminology, where the obverse die that struck the front of the coin was accidentally hubbed twice with the design in slightly different positions, creating a doubling effect that is visible on various elements of Lincoln's portrait and the inscriptions. On the most dramatic examples, you can see clear doubling in the word liberty, in the date 1958, in the motto "In God We Trust," and even in Lincoln's eye and the lines of his coat. This doubling isn't wear or damage, it's an inherent characteristic of how the die was manufactured, and every coin struck from that particular die will show the same doubling pattern. A circulated 1958 D wheat penny with strong double die characteristics might sell for several $1,000s, but a gem uncirculated example with bold, eye-appealing doubling could easily fetch into the 6 or 7 figures at auction, and if that coin happened to be the finest known example of this particular die variety, you're looking at a multi-million-dollar coin. Another valuable error associated with the 1958 D wheat penny is this D over D repunched mint mark, where the mint mark punch was struck more than once in slightly different positions, creating an overlapping or shadowed appearance to this D the mint mark. Depending on the strength and clarity of the repunching, these varieties can be quite valuable, especially in high grade. There are also reported examples of 1958 D wheat pennies struck on wrong planchets, such as a penny die striking a blank intended for a dime, creating a coin that is smaller than normal and made of different metal composition. These wrong planchet errors are incredibly rare and can sell for enormous sums even in lower grades. Off-center strikes, where the blank planchet wasn't properly centered in the collar die when struck, are another error type that collectors prize, with dramatic off-center strikes showing significant portions of the blank planchet visible alongside partial design elements. And then there are the truly bizarre errors like broad strikes, where the coin was struck without the collar die in place, creating a coin that spread out and is wider than normal, and lamination errors where the copper plating separated from the zinc core in later years or where the copper itself split or peeled due to impurities in the metal. The auction history and sales records for high-grade 1958 D wheat pennies read like a who's who of legendary numismatic transactions. Major auction houses have handled some truly spectacular examples over the years, and each time a new record is set, it makes headlines in the coin collecting world and sometimes even in mainstream financial media. Heritage Auctions, the world's largest collectibles auctioneer, has sold several gem-quality 1958 D wheat pennies for 5-figure and 6-figure sums, with era varieties commanding the highest premiums. Stack's Bowers Galleries, another prestigious auction house with over 80 years of experience in rare coins, has brought some truly exceptional specimens to market, including a famous MS-68 red example that was fought over by multiple bidders in a tense auction room showdown before finally hammering for a price that left observers stunned. Legend Rare Coin Auctions, which specializes in the finest and rarest coins available, has handled some of the most spectacular wheat pennies ever to come to market, and their track record of achieving record prices has made them the go-to destination for collectors who own truly special coins. When a coin achieves a $43 million valuation, we're typically talking about either a perfect MS-70 specimen with absolutely no competition in the population reports, or a dramatic error variety in exceptional grade that represents the finest known example of that particular error. But here's what should really get your heart racing: these coins are still out there waiting to be discovered. Despite decades of searching by collectors, despite millions of wheat pennies being examined and sorted, there are still unbelievable finds being made on a regular basis. Just in the past few years, multiple stories have emerged of people discovering valuable 1958 D wheat pennies in the most unexpected places. A woman in California inherited a small collection from her father and found among the pennies a 1958 of D with a prominent double die that later sold for over $60,000. A teenager working part-time at a bank found a mint-fresh 1958 D wheat penny in a customer deposit that was later graded MS-67 and sold for 5 figures. An estate sale treasure hunter purchased a box of old coins for $20 and discovered a roll of uncirculated 1958 D wheat pennies that had somehow survived untouched for over 60 years, including one coin that graded MS-68 and brought a staggering sum at auction. These aren't fairy tales or urban legends, these are documented cases that prove the potential for discovery still exists, and with an original mintage of over 800 million coins, there are certainly more treasures hiding in attics, basements, safe deposit boxes, and old collections just waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize their value. The process of finding and authenticating a valuable 1958 D wheat penny requires knowledge, patience, and attention to detail, but it's absolutely something that ordinary people can do with the right guidance. Start by gathering any wheat pennies you have access to, whether from your own change, from family members, from estate sales, or from coin rolls that you can order from your local bank. Sort through them carefully, looking specifically for that D mint mark under the date on the 1958 examples. Use a good magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe with at least 10x magnification to examine each coin closely, looking for any signs of doubling in the letters, numbers, or design elements. Check the condition carefully, noting whether the coin appears to have been circulated or if it still has original mint luster and sharp details. If you find a coin that looks promising, don't clean it. Cleaning a coin destroys its value and is the #1 mistake that novice collectors make. Instead, handle it carefully by the edges only, place it in a protective holder like a coin flip or capsule, and get it to a reputable coin dealer or directly to a professional grading service for authentication and evaluation. The cost of having a coin professionally graded is typically between $30 and $100 depending on the service level and turnaround time, but if you're right about having a valuable coin, that investment will pay for itself thousands or even millions of times over. The 1958 D wheat penny represents something profound in the world of numismatics and collecting. It's a bridge between the past and present, a tangible connection to an era when America was different, when pennies mattered, when the wheat design symbolized agricultural abundance and national prosperity. It's the final year of a beloved design that spanned half a century, and there's something poignant and powerful about holding that last year's coin, knowing that it represents the end of an era. But beyond the historical and sentimental significance, the 1958 D wheat penny is also a testament to the incredible potential that exists in the everyday objects we take for granted. A coin worth $43 million didn't start out as a treasure, it started out as 1 cent, as a piece of change that someone might have used to buy a newspaper or a pack of gum. The fact that it transformed into something so valuable tells us that we should never underestimate the potential hiding in plain sight, that we should always look closer, examine more carefully, and never assume that something ordinary is necessarily worthless. The wheat penny collectors who started saving these coins back in the 1950s and 60s couldn't have imagined that some of their carefully preserved specimens would one day be worth millions. They simply recognized that these coins were beautiful.